I'd like to welcome the University of Texas team. Congrats on last night's win and advancing to the second round.
Thank you.
We have Coach Vic Schaefer and seniors Joanne Allen Taylor and Audrey Warren here. We will let Coach start us off with an opening statement, and then we'll go to questions for the student athletes.
All right, good afternoon, y'all. Happy for our players. To be able to win in the NCAA tournament's really hard. Everybody's really good, and I thought while it wasn't our best night, I thought Fairfield had a lot to do with that. And again, congratulations to them on a great season. As I told our players, we beat a champion. They won their regular season conference championship as well as their tournament. Anytime you beat a champion, you've done something. And even though it might not have been as clean as we'd like, it's still a win in the NCAA tournament, and you just try to win in advance. And so we're here today advancing and have to play a tremendous Utah team. Obviously they played extremely well last night. They have been playing really well down the stretch. Coach Roberts and her staff have done a great job, and it's going to be a real big challenge for us. I think they present a lot of issues for you defensively. They challenge you every possession, and they'll go deep into the shot clock challenging you. So it's going to take a real focus on our part for the full 30 seconds to defend them and defend all the things they like to do. They've got tremendous players over there that are playing extremely well at a high level. Great point guard play, which is you got to have that to win this time of year. You better have that, and they've certainly got that. And so we'll have to play. We'll have to be really good on that end to start with. And I think that's where it starts with for Texas is on the defensive end. I think if we're playing well on that end, our confidence really flows into our offense, and we feel better about things on that end. So we'll be challenged at every position, and you'll be challenged in every set because they're gonna really try to put some pressure on you at different spots on the floor. But happy for our kids, happy for our players, to be able to get through last night, and I thought we had a nice atmosphere in the Irwin Center for our game last night. So.
Thanks, Coach Schaefer. We'll go ahead and start questions for Audrey and Joe. Raise your hand if you have a question and identify yourself and then ask your question. We'll start up front with Jim Vertuno from the Associated Press.
For the players, obviously the 15 three-pointers from Utah stands out. So what's the key to stopping that? What defensively, you go into a game like this, what's the priority when you're facing a team that can just light it up from outside like that?
We've seen teams that were capable of all shooting the ball before, so I think going back to those games and seeing what worked, we'll all need to handle our matchup one-on-one so that we don't have to come off and rotate or have to help each other too much where we get off the shooters and they're able to kick it out to them.
Yeah, we just have to be really tough on the ball, extremely aggressive on ball to me.
Again, raise your hand if you have a question. Danielle Lerner from the Houston Chronicle.
Kind of as a follow-up to that, you guys have been pretty good at defending the three all season. When you look back at the games where you were able to successfully do that, are there any in particular that stand out that you think can kind of serve as the template that you want to do tomorrow?
Can you repeat it one more time? I don't think I heard what you're asking.
Basically, are there any games this season that you feel like your three-point defense was really like on point, and you want to use that as an example for what you need to do tomorrow?
I think the closest resemblance would probably be in Iowa State, just players that can shoot it 1 through 5.
Just being extremely aggressive on ball like we've been all year. I think that kind of sets the tone for us defensively.
Back left, go ahead and identify yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, Jay Drew from the Deseret News in Salt Lake City, Utah. Audrey, a lot has been made about equality of tournaments, trying to improve the women's tournament to be on equal standing as the men's. One of the differences is they play first-round games at neutral sites as opposed to, obviously, the reason we're here right now. Do you like it the way it is, or would you prefer the format to be more like the men's?
I like having the advantage of a home court. You know, typically there's more fans from our area and that are rooting for us, so that's a good environment to have. Just having, you know, getting to play on your home court is a huge advantage itself, and then considering we don't have to travel anywhere, you know, we get to stay close. We're at our homes throughout the day, and so it's an advantage. I like the way it is. I liked it last year when it was all on a neutral site in San Antonio. I mean, I'm fine either way. I'm just happy we all get to play basketball.
Again, if you have any questions in the virtual audience, use your raised hand function and we'll go to you. But Danny Davis from the Austin American-Statesman here locally.
Joe, when you went back and looked at the film or thinking back to last night, what did you like and what did you dislike about how you all performed yesterday?
I think there were spurts of just seeing like the freshmen really do well, like, and come into their own. I think that was a positive for us, like them stepping up late in the season, and like that's just growth for, you know, how they're gonna, you know, or what type of players they're gonna become throughout their college careers, like Tasha and Amo really having big minutes for us. And then I can only speak on myself personally about like what I disliked. I mean, I just felt like I wasn't comfortable defensively, and I kind of gave up too many easy buckets, like especially like not turning and running and staying in front of the ball and kind of getting in foul trouble a little bit early. So that was just, you know, my little niche that I had to look back and see what I had to be better at personally, so I can carry that into, you know, the next game.
Since, you know, last year you guys were 6 going into this round, and you had UCLA, you had Maryland. Does it help to know what the mentality of an underdog is, so you kind of know what Utah is coming out there playing, or is that overblown and this is basketball and y'all are just playing?
I honestly think we're just playing. I mean, Utah's a really good team, so like it's hard to say underdog this, underdog that, because like, I mean, they're a 7 seed, but man, I mean they hung 90 on Arkansas last night. Like that's tough to do, you know. So yeah, I think we're just all just playing. We're just playing, yeah.
Any further questions for the student athletes? Up front on
I have one more, then I'll hand it over. Regardless, unless y'all decide to come back next year, this is kind of it for you at the Irwin Center, or I guess this is it for you at the Irwin Center regardless. What are your thoughts about playing one more time here in this arena?
Yeah, there's a lot of history in this arena, and I think Joe and I are, you know, both really excited to have gotten to play the 4 years here, and we want to end it right at the Irwin Center with a win and going on to the next round.
Got one last one for the student athletes. Jim Vertuno, the Associated Press.
The Fairfield coach last night really complimented you guys in a way, saying that if you're going to play Texas, you better have just designed 2 or 3 different ways to get the ball up the court, 2 or 3 different ways just to get the ball in bounds. And that seems to speak to just how intense you guys are on defense. Is that where it all starts for you, just from 94 feet all the way?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that that's who we are as our defense, and that's where it's going to start is in the ball. I mean, you can't get the ball on offense without getting a stop on defense, and I think pressuring people for 94 feet and making them turn it over multiple times or just throwing it out of bounds or anything really gives us a momentum goer on offense.
Yeah, and for me personally, like, it's something that you can like necessarily always control. You can always control your effort defensively. You might not always be able to control like balls going into the hoop every single game, but like it just sets the tone for you, and it's something you can bring to the table every single game. So yeah.
You set, Jim? Great. Thank you to the student athletes. Joanne, Audrey, appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow. Now we'll take some questions for Coach Schaefer. Again, raise your hand if you have a question, and those of you in the virtual audience, if you have a question, use the raised hand function. We'll go ahead and start with Danielle Lerner from the Houston Chronicle.
Vic, when you look at the turnovers that Utah had last night, I think it was like 19 or something like that. Was there a common denominator that you saw, and I guess lessons from anything Arkansas did to force those turnovers that you guys can do?
Well, I think, you know, during the course of a ball game, you know, as I watched the film, many films last night and into this morning, I mean, I think there's things that you pick up offensively and defensively that might be similar to what you do, and you try to, you know, show your kids, okay, here's something here, here's something we might be able to do here. But I just think that we're way different than most people, you know, for as far as how we play. And I think that we've got to be us. At the same time, we got to clean some stuff up. I just, you know, the only thing I actually didn't think we were near as sharp and played as hard as we have been playing, which I knew it was coming. I told y'all, I knew it was coming last night, coming off of the Big 12 tournament championship and having the young, inexperienced team that I have and some of the immaturity. You know, I saw it all coming all week, and there's nothing you can do about it sometimes. You know, just getting through the night, again, giving Fairfield tons of credit, but I think we've got to be really disciplined tomorrow night. They're smart, they're heady, they got the same film I got. You know, they're going to try to put us in some spots where we're stressed, and we're going to have to handle them a whole lot better. And so we'll see if we can get some things ironed out today in practice, but. You know, for Arkansas, I think they're a little bit different than us as far as defensively, and so I think you got to go through a ton of film to get to something that's similar to us. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of Pac-12 film that looks like Texas defensively. So I mean, I think you really got to do some research.
Again, raise your hand if you have a question. Back left.
Vic, Oregon coach Kelly Graves the other day on a podcast said that to reach true equality with the men's tournament, that games should be at neutral sites even from the get-go. What's your reaction to that? Obviously, you're playing at home, so I don't expect that you would agree with him this year, but just generally, do you think that's the way the tournament ought to go?
Well, you know, I used to be that person, but here's the thing. We can do that, and there might be this many people in the stands if we go to a neutral site. I mean, that's why they've done it. They haven't done it just to go, hey, let's give somebody an advantage. I mean, there's some adults that got in a room and said, what's more important for our kids? What's more important for the student athletes? And I used to be that person that go, hey, that's not fair for 64 teams to have to go to 16 home team sites. But the other side of that is, well, everybody's got the same opportunity to be one of those 16 teams, right? I mean, it is. So I think what you then have with the NCAA is, okay, what's a great experience for our student athletes? Playing in an empty arena or playing in that environment last night? And so I think, I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm telling you that's what the people are trying to figure out. Everybody has their opinion, right? But that's where we're at. I mean, so, you know, look, in the old league I was in, it was 3 hours from South Carolina when we played in our conference tournament. Was that real fair? Huh? But that town, that community does a great job in supporting that event, and there's people at the games, which in turn create a great environment for our kids to experience, if that makes sense. So it's whatever you think's most important, and apparently the bosses think that what's more important is that we have bigger crowds, that's better for the games and creates an atmosphere that our student athletes can really have a good experience in. So, and again, everybody's got the same opportunity, you know, to be one of those top 16 seeds. So,
In the middle, Danny Davis.
Vic, were you concerned by the amount of threes, or I guess success from behind the arc that Iowa State had in the tournament, or was that just one of those days where they just made the extra passes and just had a good day?
no, I was very concerned, Danny. I mean, you know, we've been pretty good out there, but we weren't good that day. And I'm sure if you're, you know, Utah, you're probably going to that film and feeling pretty good about yourself, you know. And for us, I've shown the same film, and, you know, it's concerning. So, you know, we've been pretty solid out there all year. That day, that game wasn't very good. And so we've got to get better. You know, we got to do better. I got to find a way to get that fixed today and then tomorrow and shoot around, because it's going to be a problem. You know, you're going to lose the horse game. You know, we stand out there and try to play horse with them, we're going to lose. So we're going to have to find a way to fix that, and you fix it by handling the ball. If you can guard the ball, you don't have to rotate, you don't have to come off people. You got a whole lot better chance. And, you know, that's the thing I think that you're impressed with Utah. The thing about film, y'all, is film doesn't show quickness or speed. Like you when you're watching game film and scouting film, it's why in the old days, y'all, they used to let us have one in-person scouting a year. You could go in-person scout somebody one time a year. And when I'd go do that, I wasn't writing down plays. You can get that off film. I'm writing down quickness and speed. And that's the thing when you're sitting there last night, that's the thing that really jumped out at me about Utah. They're quick, they're athletic, and their speed. And so, you know, I think that's the thing that, you know, we've got to be really on point with tomorrow night.
Kind of going off what you just said, as far as like the in-person scouting, yesterday you were sitting next to your assistants for that game. Was that just because you hadn't seen Utah? Because I know, you know, Deanna, April, Calamity were kind of out there by themselves at the Big 12 tournament, but you joined them yesterday. Was that because you just wanted to see a firsthand account of two teams you really hadn't seen? No,
typically I do that, Danny, quite frankly, in the NCAA tournament. I do it for sure. And even in the conference tournaments, I'm typically out there scouting. The time schedule and the time frame in Kansas City made it a little bit hard for me. And plus, I'd already seen those teams we were fixing to play twice, and I'd seen them recently. So I felt good about what I was looking at and who I was dealing with. But, you know, typically, NCAA tournament, I'm always out there.
On your left, Coach Daniel, go ahead.
When it comes to looking at film, like, how do you balance wanting to just look at mistakes that you want to correct versus showing them, okay, this is some stuff that we did well? Or does it depend on the game or the opponent you're going to face next?
Yeah, I think in such a quick turnaround, it's really hard to cover everything. You know, I think you have to figure out as a coach what's more important. And that's what we did this morning. We watched what was more important to the head coach, and that's what we did. So, you know, I think you know, my job is to be a realist. And at the same time, you know, you got to present to them some answers and make them understand, okay, here's what we got to do. Here's some things that we can do that can be effective. Here's some mistakes we typically don't make. We've been really solid on, for whatever reason, we made them. So we got to make sure we clean that up.
Any additional questions? In the middle, Danny.
We've obviously talked a lot about Rory this season and her development. I'm kind of wondering, obviously the talent is there and the skills are there, but you know, how much has being tutored by Deanna helped her? How much has your coach and what you've taught her kind of helped her with this, I guess, transition she's made this season?
Yeah, I think she listens well. I think she's very coachable. And I think that, having someone like Deanna around that's been there, that's played the game, and obviously has instant credibility, really benefits her. And then, she knows I've had some really good point guards in my career, so, and a lot of them, similar in a lot of ways. And, so she's very coachable and wants to get better. And, again, you're talking about a kid that's the ultimate competitor. I mean, she's such a competitive kid, and just extremely, like that motor is just running a lot. And, I get used to the fifth gear, and I notice the fourth gear. And fourth gear is pretty good for most people, but you know me, I'm always wanting fifth gear, and I notice the difference. And so, she understands that, and I think that's the challenge with any freshman. That, they go through these anywhere. It's, this isn't personal. We're just trying to help them become the best they can be. It's our job to push them to places and past limits that they never really knew were there. And I think Aaliyah said it in the newspaper, Danny, the other day, she's learning to be uncomfortable, and that's what's helping her become good. And that's the challenge, is learning to deal with being uncomfortable. A lot of kids don't want to be uncomfortable, and they run. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like it here because I'm uncomfortable, okay? And so they take their ball and go somewhere else. And that's the challenge for kids today, is don't run. You're uncomfortable because it's, you're learning, you're growing, you're becoming a better player, you're going against better talent against you. And so that uncomfortability is what's going to allow you to become the best you can be. And I think, for somebody like Rory's got the talent. What separates her is her effort. You've heard me say that. There's not a lot of players in the country, forget freshmen. There's not a lot of players in the country that play as hard as she does on both ends of the floor and impact the game. Like, she's in everybody's scouting report on defense. Forget the fact that she's our second leading scorer or whatever she is, or her assist-to-turnover ratio. She's in their scouting report on, you better take care of the ball because you're going to get to know her for 2 hours on whatever night you're playing her, because she's going to be that close to you. And, it's the old Hoosiers. What kind of chewing gum was she chewing? Most nights she can tell you. And that's just the kind of player she is. And those players, y'all, are getting fewer and farther between. Everybody wants to score, but not many people want to do what she does, and she embraces it. She loves it. It's why she's at Texas. She's told you that. And so that's what makes that kid so unique and so special. So.
Go ahead, Daniel. Had a follow-up?
Yeah, who are some of those former point guards who you see as being similar to Rory?
Say it again.
Who are some of those former point guards you've had who you see as being similar to Rory?
Jazz on my staff, Jazz's motor was very similar. Speed, up and down the floor. Jazz saw the floor so well. She knew Blair was going to be standing in that left corner, and if she could get it down the floor fast enough, she knew she could throw a slice pass across court, and Blair would be standing there, and there's a good chance she's going to bury a three. Morgan Williams, same thing. She was that tough, physical, took over 100 charges in her career. Tough kid that, had played with no fear. Sydney Carter was on our national championship team. Just maybe one of the top 3 toughest kids I've ever coached at 5'6", stand in front of a freight train, to take a charge, but smart and heady. So, I could go on, but, Rory, I think where excites me about Rory is where she is as a freshman. She's probably further ahead than everybody I just mentioned. And, all those kids I just mentioned had the motor. They had the motor. And again, Rory's skill set's probably a little better right now in this time in her career. But now the challenge for her is to get better even with her skill set, right? And don't lose the motor. keep that motor, but now we got to keep working on the skill set and make it, and she will. I mean, you saw her make a bunch of threes the other night in the Big 12 championship game. She hasn't done that all year, but she's been working on it. It's not just that something that happens. It's something that she's worked on and she's developing some confidence in. So special. I mean, she is very special.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time. We'll
All
see you
right.
tomorrow night.
Thank you. Praise the Lord and hook 'em horns.